Welcome to the discussion. My guests today are Richard Breakiron, the Senior Director for Strategic Initiatives for Federal at Commvault, Dave DeVries, the Senior Director for Strategic Initiatives for State, Local, and Education for Commvault, and Kirk Kern, the Chief Technology Officer at NetApp Americas. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Let me set some context for our discussion. Data. It's one of those words, it's a concept, but no matter what you think of it, it's clear that data is the gas that runs the government. With the rise of connected devices and 5G, the volume, the velocity, the variety of data only will increase. And if you consider that by some estimates, 90% of all federal data is considered dark data, then getting a handle on it becomes even more important today than ever. Dark data, if you're not familiar with it, is unstructured or even unknown data that comes from a variety of sources, whether sensors in the field or operational technology like heating and cooling systems. It's not used, but could provide value to the organization to make decisions. This dark data poses risks to the organization that don't get a handle on it, particularly around storage from a cost and management perspective, but also from a cybersecurity standpoint. If you don't know what you have, how do you protect it? How do you manage it? How do you find value in it? And that's just one of the questions our panel today is going to try to help you answer. This question and others like it become even more complex as agencies move applications and data to the cloud and add new artificial intelligence and machine learning tools to the mix. So with that context in place, let's turn to the panel. Kirk, let me start with you. One of the big questions we hear a lot about is data protection. But data protection, a lot of people think about is, oh, it's a cybersecurity, but we're not really going to define it that way. So let's start with how you define this idea of data protection and why is it more than just security?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on the program here, Jason. So in the storage world, data protection is typically characterized by two metrics: data availability and data durability. And in the case of availability, that typically refers to the ability to ensure that the data is accessible when it's requested. And it's often measured in terms of percentages and the percentage that it's available. So you hear the number quoted, 99.99% available. You know, an easier way to think about that is actually to invert that metric, which means that, you know, if the data is not available and it's at 99.99% available, there's actually 53 minutes a year where it can't be accessed. And then when we talk about data durability, that's really the ability to keep the data stored consistent and intact and without the influence of bit rot or drive failures or any other system failures that you store that data on. And typically we see those numbers at a much higher level of nine nines or 11 nines of durability, which means if you store 10 million objects, then you can expect to lose an object of your data every 10,000 years. And so what you'll find is as customers start to migrate to the cloud, there's a big difference between availability and durability. You'll pay significantly higher rates in the cloud for highly available data versus highly durable data. And so we'll explore some of those concepts as we go through this program.
I think that's a really great way to explain it because when you think about the availability of it, 53 minutes a year, you're not being able to access your data. You don't know when that 53 minutes is going to come, and it could come at key points where you're going, oh, I need that data now. Talk to me a little bit about why data availability, people maybe don't quite understand that.
Yeah, well, that's where you have to have good data protection scenarios in play using, you know, backup and recovery software. And so in the event that that data is not available, you need a mechanism to restore, you know, that data from its previously known good state, and then you can kick off processing again. And so there are other metrics that start to kick in, things like recovery time options and recovery point options. And that's really a lot of what my Commvault folks have expertise in.
Well, let's bring in those Commvault folks. Dave DeVries and Richard Breakiron. Richard, let me start with you. As you guys talk with federal customers and you talk to state and local customers, what's this concept about data protection that the message you're trying to ensure they understand?
So thanks for having us on it today, and appreciate the opportunity. So real quickly, Jason, for me, the concept of data protection is, especially from a security aspect, is if you look at all of the various security, cybersecurity sensors, the protective, the firewalls, at some point, our long history has demonstrated the adversary always wins at some level. And when they win, the fail-safe of fail-safes is being able to recover the data, as Kirk brought up, from a RPO, RTO point, and being able to restore. So for me, when I think about data protection, it is the ability to get operational again as quickly as possible. And that's really where we see the tremendous value of data protection, is in the fact that you might be held up for a ransomware and very much being told, hey, give me money if you want to get back operational. If you can turn to your support groups like NetApp and Commvault and say, can I just go back to my last recovery point and bring back up my systems? And you go, thumbs up, you're there. Then you move forward. That's data protection for me. And that's data readiness. It's all the same thing. It's being able to react to the unknown. Dave?
And I would just add one more context to that, and that is from the business side of the house. Again, as Kirk pointed out, you have to know your data, see the data. And it's also always looking at what's the cost of me maintaining this thing? How much do I need to have in terms of storage? Where's that storage at? Just as he talked about the availability side of the house, it's also now, where do I have that data? Can I move it to someplace cheaper? Can I dispose of it? Because if I don't have it, somebody can't come in and take it from me and then hold me at ransom for it. But I have to comply with the rules and the laws, and that's where the whole thing is. You always have to remember the business side of the house here.
And Dave makes a really good point. If I could just add one little, Dave, you and I talk all the time. When we were in the DoD, we would often remind everybody, all data is not created equal. So nuclear command and control sort of took a little bit higher precedence than maybe some of the administrative timekeeping aspects that we might have to do within the DoD. So it's really, really, data protection is also being sensitive to that business process. How do we make sure we protect the right data at the right level, because it's expensive, or it can be.
All right, good point. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we can continue our conversation and talk a little bit more about that value. You're listening to the discussion, Generating More Value from Your Data, sponsored by Commvault and NetApp on Federal News Network.